everyone. Welcome to the Montana Farm Bureau Field Notes podcast. My name is Haley Druxma. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the digital communications lead here at the Montana Farm Bureau Federation. I'd like to kick today's podcast off with a reminder that if you have anything you'd like to learn about, a pertinent news story, or someone you'd want to see us bring on the podcast, whether that's yourself or someone you know, please shoot me an email at haleyd@mfbf.org. That's HALEYD at mfbf.org. My goal is always to bring you interesting, exciting content about agriculture, and I love your recommendations. So now, let's get into today's episode. Today, I am joined by my lovely friend, Miss Ella. Welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you. Do you want to start off by introducing yourself to our listeners?
Sure. Yeah. My name is Ella Billmayer. I am from originally Holden, Montana. Currently reside in Havre, Montana, and I work in special education. So that's kind of a little bit about me. And then I graduated high school in Turner, Montana, from Turner High School, the Turner Tornadoes.
Woo.
So that's where I am from.
That's awesome. The Montana Farm Bureau is obviously an agriculture advocacy organization, and I know you were kind of raised in agriculture. Do you want to talk a little bit about what that was like? Kind of your upbringing?
Yeah. So I was fortunate enough to grow up in a very small town, and that overall community aspect was such a huge part of my growing up and who I am today. So I'm very fortunate to have had that experience in my life. As far as growing up in agriculture itself, I helped my dad on the farm growing up, especially my sophomore year. I kind of was taken under as the help on the farm, the hired help. So that was kind of a new role, and it was very fun. A little bit stressful at times, and it definitely was interesting to manage working under your dad. So it was definitely enjoyable, though, and I think overall something that I will use the rest of my life. So
yeah, I'm sure a lot of our listeners will be able to relate to the family work aspect there for sure. Yeah, we love that. Lots of good folks up there on the High Line in that country.
Most definitely.
And then after that, you continued on to Montana State. Do you want to touch on your experience there and kind of what you do now?
Yeah. So after high school, I graduated in 2017, and I moved to Bozeman to start my bachelor's degree in nursing. And I quickly changed to education, more specifically special education. Kind of growing up, I spent a lot of time helping out in the resource room, so I knew I wanted to gear more towards that level of students. So I guess just overall, my heart was always in special education, and here I am still teaching it. I think this is in January, we'll be going into my 5th year because I kind of started mid-year. But my experience at MSU was fantastic. I quickly became a very big Bobcat fan, and still to this day, we have season tickets and go down to Bobcat games. So that's really enjoyable. And yeah. I don't know if you want me to go in further depth.
That's awesome. No, I love that. We love our Bobcats around here, and Havre certainly has it. So congratulations on your achievements at MSU and in your career. That's awesome. I'm super excited to have you on this week, especially, Ella, as September comes to a close. So we're rounding out Suicide Prevention Month. It's also National Farm Safety and Health Week right now. And a big part of that is emphasizing the importance of mental health, especially in our, rural and agricultural communities. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about your family's story and kind of where your passion for spreading mental health awareness comes from?
I would love to. So my sophomore year of high school, I lost my brother to suicide. He was a senior in high school, and I try not to get emotional about it, but it is an emotional subject, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But just, it shook my family's world for sure. And let's see, it would have been this year, 10 years ago. So 10 years ago. And my family always knew, I guess not always. I went to Hobie the year after I lost my brother, and my brother had also attended Hobie. And so that experience kind of brought to light just other people are struggling. Like this is becoming kind of an epidemic in a sense. So I wanted to do something to help people, not only in the rural communities, but also just in Montana in general. And I mean, everyone could probably say Montana is rural.
For sure, yeah.
So it extends. So I took home the idea coming from Hobie, with the help of the leader there, to do a suicide awareness walk in memory of my brother. So that summer, we kind of planned it, and towards the fall, we kind of geared up towards our first annual Tristan Billmayer Memorial Walk. So in our community, suicide was never really an issue, and nobody knew to talk about their mental illness and things like that. So my family kind of starting that in that area was kind of all brand new. We had an amazing turnout. I think it was like around 350 people from across the High Line, across the state, showed up to not only support our family in our grieving process, but also the grieving process of their family members or community members that they've lost to suicide and things like that, or just to be there and kind of to learn more about mental health. So that was amazing. We walked 14 miles about, which was quite a ways.
Wow. Yeah.
Time to process kind of the day and overall mental health. And then we had a speaker. And then we did that for about, I think we did it for 7 years, where we would bring in a speaker and walk. And we also do scholarships in under Tristan Billmayer Memorial Fund. So that's something that our family kind of continues to do. And since then, we've lost a few more members of our community to suicide, as well as I've lost close friends in the surrounding communities. So it is still very prevalent to us to continue raising mental health and awareness and whatnot. But we've kind of extended it more to like a state level, and my mom still does the scholarships for students who are going into the mental health field or psychology and things like that. So that's kind of our background and what we do as a family. And we also fund speakers in our area along the High Line and things like that, just to continue talking about it. I think that's the biggest thing that as a community we need to do more of. So I appreciate all of your efforts as well to reach out to the farming community, because it means a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. I know it's not a super fun topic to talk about, but I think it's super admirable of you and your whole family for taking that responsibility and sharing your story and talking about it. Like you said, that's just like one of the biggest barriers, I think, for sure, is just being willing to talk about it for everyone that have been affected. And I think everyone knows whether they've personally been affected by it or they at least know someone who has. So super big deal, especially in rural Montana. I know we at Farm Bureau, from the top down, recognize that caring for our personal mental health and that of others is super important. There's all sorts of resources out there. I know Farm Bureau, we have the Farm State of Mind campaign at a national level, which has all sorts of information and stories and help for people. All sorts of information for those who might be struggling or in need. And then there's the Beyond the Weather campaign. I'm sure you're familiar with that, with Courtney Kibblewhite and our friends at the Northern Ag Network.
Yeah.
And then our alma mater also, MSU has plenty of resources there too. I want to know if there's any resources, like you listed some that your family provides. Are there any off the top of your head that are extra valuable, or just general information that you want to share with some listeners about mental health?
As far as resources, I kind of what you've listed already is what I'm familiar with as well. And just ultimately knowing that there's always someone to talk to. As a community are always a resource. So I think we kind of lose sight of that, especially in the hard times. And I think we need to be a little bit more understanding and know that, that's why you have to be kind to one another. You never know what someone is going through. And ultimately we are each other's biggest resource. So I think that's kind of what I have to share from that aspect, other than what you listed. So
Yeah, yeah, and I agree. I mean, taking it, regardless of whether or not you personally have struggled with mental health, just being kind to others and
yeah.
ensuring that you're taking care of other people, thinking through your actions. All those things are super important. Yeah. Do you see any tie in with mental health and some of the work that you do in your profession?
Yeah, so a few years back, I guess this has a little, it's not necessarily in my profession, but just the work that we have done. We received a message from a lady who said she was wearing one of the memorial shirts in another town in the state. I believe it was Missoula. And she had a random person come up to her and say, that story is very cool and it definitely changed my life. And his story saved my life. So it's just really cool to see like what we've done at least has changed one person's life. So I don't know. It's definitely a touchy topic, but I think ultimately, in my profession, I work with littles, so the it's definitely like our upbringing and things like that that kind of contribute to that, but also what we can do as teachers to impact their lives on a positive note. And I think that's kind of the biggest thing is like just caring for our youth and um, being a resource for them, like I talked about, just as a community and knowing that they're not alone. And I know my sister works really closely with behavioral health and things like that, and she just always a shoulder to cry on. So I think that's the biggest thing is just making sure that people know that they're not alone. And
Yeah.
that's across the board from them growing up being kindergartners all the way to adults even. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. That story that you mentioned of the gal wearing the
Mhm.
shirt. That's so wonderful. And we are such a, like you kind of mentioned earlier, Montana almost entirely is made up of these rural communities, and I think it affects these mental health issues can affect rural communities differently just because of how small they are and how tight knit they are in a lot of cases. Do you see um, kind of a difference there with how close your community is? I mean, you talked about your walk and how everyone came together. Do you think it affects these rural communities any differently?
I think it definitely does, especially because we all know each other very well.
Mm-hmm.
And growing up, you know, so closely with one another, I think you had to have known who the person is, especially not only in our community, but along the High Line. We're all very close, playing each other in sports and things like that. So it definitely impacts more than just the small community, but the surrounding area as well.
Yeah, yeah, I would
And
definitely.
so,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would totally agree. Um, yeah, I'm so grateful for you being willing to sit down and talk to us today. Um,
yeah.
and I want to know, if there's any kind of final messages that you want to share. Do you want to talk a little bit about kind of who your brother was? Share a little bit
Yeah.
about him.
Yeah, he was just a light to be around.
Mm-hmm.
Um, definitely, definitely miss him a lot.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Mm-hmm.
um, ultimately, I think, like I said, my family's goal was to be able to move on from that and continue to see his light in the work that we do. Um, sorry, I'm trying not
No,
to be
no,
emotional. It's
you're totally
definitely,
fine. I appreciate it so much.
absolutely. Um, but I think overall, just the type of person he was is definitely reflected in what we're trying to move forward with and continue to help people find their light and let them know that, it's what is going on right now is not a forever thing. That you can definitely overcome it. You just might need to find that extra help, and whatever that might look like. It might be counseling. It might be talking to a friend about it. It might be, um, finding a hobby that helps you get through whatever hard time you're going through and things like that. So I think that's the biggest thing is just don't give up.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a wonderful message to wrap up on. Is there anything else that you kind of want to share? Any closing comments?
Um, I guess just overall, thank you so much for including me in this and taking the time to reach out. I really appreciate it. I'm really thankful for the opportunity to get to speak to it and I hope others step up and do the same. So
Yeah, of course. We're so happy to have you. I'm so glad that
yep,
we were able to make this work today. Thank you so much for being on.
absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for tuning into this episode today. I want to take a second and offer this episode in remembrance of Tristan Billmayer and all of our Montana friends who we've lost to the tragedy of suicide. Please, if you or someone you know is struggling with suicidal ideation or maybe just going through a tough time, please call 988, call on the resources we listed in the episode, or as Ella mentioned, don't overlook your family, your friends, and we, your Farm Bureau family, are always here for you as well. Show a little kindness today. Thank you all again for joining Ella and myself in today's episode.